Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Barry Verbanovic, Mayor of the City of Kitchener, and I'm thrilled to be joined this morning by my co-MC, colleague and friend, Regional Chair, Karen Redmond. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Barry. Good morning, everyone.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this virtual event, Retooling Yourself for the Jobs of the Future. This is a Future of Work coalition event with the Region of Waterloo and the City of Kitchener partnering with Plum and Communitech. Our hope today is to host an event to provide displaced workers a chance to assess their skills. It's such an important aspect of your job or career search. What skills do you possess, and how do they apply it to the job you want? I've changed careers a number of times during my life in the local workforce, starting as a student where I was a page at Kitchener Public Library, menswear at Sears, IT at the City of Kitchener, self-employed with a promotional products business during university, and elected office are just a few examples. And each time I certainly had to learn new skills, but I also learned that I could bring my experience, knowledge, and skill set and apply them in different ways. And in some situations, I brought much more with me than I first realized. I didn't have Plum to work with, though. This is a great Made in Waterloo Region tool that you'll be given access to today for free. Plum provides workers with insights into how their strengths and skills could transfer to a different career in a different sector. This morning, we also have panelists from local organizations providing tips on job seeking, virtual interview skills, and how to get involved in the local tech market. You will then get to hear some inspiring firsthand stories from two Waterloo Region residents who have undergone big career transitions. And we're going to attempt to do all of this inside of an hour. So let's get started right away, and I'll hand things over to our regional chair, Karen Redmond, to introduce our first panel.
Thanks, Barry. To kick things off, I'd like to introduce our three panelists who have joined us today to discuss the local job market and what opportunities are out there for job seekers who may be interested in additional skill development. First is Charlene Hoffbauer, who is the Executive Director of Workforce Planning Board of Waterloo, Wellington, Dufferin. Next is Simon Chang, who leads the Future of Work and Learning Initiative at Communitech. And finally, Brooke Hooden, who is a Talent Acquisition Manager at Axonify. Let's start our conversation by looking at the job market here in the region. Charlene, can you tell us how the pandemic has affected the local job market and where you're seeing job demands right now?
Thanks, Chair Redmond. The pandemic has created a really very mixed result in Waterloo Region's labor market. Thinking about our stats from findyourjob.ca and conversations I've had with local employers over the past few months, what we're seeing is a shift to much more demand we've ever seen from the early parts of the pandemic. So last month, there were 7,284 online job postings for Waterloo Region, and that brings us back pretty close to pre-pandemic numbers. So I want to talk a bit about where we've got some softer demand, where we've got some harder demand. So our demand seems to be really soft, not a lot of job postings around accommodation and food services or around arts, entertainment, recreation, and we know tourism was hit hard. But on the bright side, there are some really great opportunities if you're looking to reskill yourself or shift your skills into a new industry. And there's kind of four scenarios that drive some of this. So in the first case, we need to make and move goods. So manufacturers have lots of vacancies right now in the trades and labor and operators, but they also have them on the front office. Admin, finance, sales is a really big one. And then we have the people who are shipping out those goods. So warehouses and transportation, from transport truck drivers to couriers because you ordered something off of Amazon, right on through to the people who are filling those orders. Very big. And then we have retail. Our retail has done pretty good. We've had a lot of really great shop local campaigns, and it supported a lot of our smaller retailers, and our big retailers had that opportunity to stay open early in the pandemic. So they are still looking for people. And finally, sales and service. Our agriculture needs a lot of salespeople because they've got a year ahead of them. They had a great year this year for weather-wise, and they need to keep moving forward. Financial needs those salespeople. Tech support, we had a lot of employers and retail businesses move to online services, and so they're calling consistently trying to get that support. So sales and service is big out there. The second area where we're seeing some growth is around those people who didn't shut down. So they moved straight to work from home, and they're continuing to grow. And that would be our tech industry, and that'd be our finance industry. They just shifted their people because they don't know when they're going to open back up physically. So they're looking for people like salespeople, service people, agents, a lot of those business skills along with the tech skills. And I'll let Simon talk a little more about that, his area of expertise. Those industries that keep us safe and healthy. So healthcare is desperate for everyone, especially those frontline workers, personal support workers, the people who cook, people who serve, the people who are nurses and provide those back end supports. As well, education. We're not thinking of them as keeping us healthy and safe, but they're keeping our kids healthy and safe. So those teachers are still needed. The cleaners and the janitors in the schools desperately needed to keep the schools safe and clean. Cleaning services, with return to work, we all need our spaces, and our office spaces, our manufacturing spaces all need to be cleaned. So they are experiencing a lot of demand right now. And then security. So security for those empty buildings that we're hoping tech and finance are going to move back into in the next few months. Those buildings need to be kept secure. So security guards are in high demand as well. And the fourth scenario is demand for occupations around where we live. So home construction. We were going to have someone from skilled trades come, and she has a carpentry background. She's so busy she can't take the time to come. So the demand is really high for carpenters and roofers, installers and servicers. Some of us maybe have put in new furnaces, or we've put in new pools, and we're looking at our homes and how to make our homes really great because we're having to stay in them for a little while. And around that as well, the landscaping piece. Landscapers have been very, very busy doing people's gardens, cutting grass, things like that. So those people are still in high demand. And with winter coming upon us, now they're looking for the plow drivers. So there's a lot of different industries, a lot of different types of skills. Some are on the job, some are apprenticeship, some are college, and all of them and university, and they all have great opportunities. So there is so much going on in our region that depends what you want to do, you'll probably find a job in it.
Thanks, Charlene. That's some great insights and definitely a wide range of markets and opportunities. Brooke, as our panel's resident recruitment and hiring specialist, what tips and suggestions would you have for local residents in terms of how they can prepare and be ready for transitioning into one of these in-demand markets?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. And Barry, thank you so much for that question. That's actually a question I get asked quite a bit. There are two key components that I would recommend to have anybody in the talent communities think about how to prepare and get ready for whether it be a transition or moving into a new role. The first one is always start researching. And it sounds like such an easy statement, but gone are the days where you just send your resume everywhere and hope for the best, and this is your strategy. What we want to do is we want to know where companies are hiring, and we want to know where to find them online, and what to do when companies are not actively hiring, and where I would typically recommend where to start your research. Each industry may focus on a different offering, so knowing where to look and recognizing that if you're not finding exactly what you need on that specific platform, go check out another one because maybe they have a different strategy and how they want to reach the audiences in order to consider applying for their roles. So companies that are actively hiring truly would be most likely posting on their careers websites first, because it is a really inexpensive way to think about how they're going to post online, especially with COVID. People have been kind of trying to make sure that they're being cautious with how they spend their dollars. Communitech's workintech.ca, if you're looking into a path or a stream in the tech communities, that is absolutely a phenomenal website to check out. We absolutely use it at Axonify, and a lot of the tech companies post there as well because of the great reach that Communitech has on their platforms. Indeed.ca, if anybody hasn't heard of that, is actually a really great platform, and it spans all across Canada. But they've actually just joined forces with Glassdoor. So what you'll see on Indeed, you're actually going to start seeing now on Glassdoor.ca. And then in Glassdoor, you're also going to get a chance to see and do some research on the company itself, which we get into a little bit later. Social media, absolutely check out their Instagram, their Facebook, LinkedIn profiles of the people who work at the company. And of course, talking to people in the industry. Ask where they would normally post their roles so you can go look. If companies aren't actively hiring, you can have those proactive conversations, but there is actually a thing called virtual coffee chats. So that way it's a little bit less formal way of being able to get to know individuals without having to feel like you're in a really formal interview process. Getting connected online, choosing a few channels to stay streamlined with is definitely a way I would focus on reviewing and getting connected. And the second thing was just setting expectations. Don't get overwhelmed, because it can feel very overwhelming because the internet feels sometimes like an abyss. But the first thing you can set expectations on are about yourself. Know the value and what's important in your career search, and really understanding some of your key strengths. I would highly recommend, if you haven't taken advantage of Plum's talent guide and being able to create your Plum profile, it immediately tells you your top 3 strengths, which is a great way to think about, if you're transitioning, what are some of those transferable skills you can take with you to that next career path. That's a great place to start. Being flexible, companies are still trying to figure out what's next for them, depending on how they are moving forward through the pandemic. Are their doors open yet? Are they not? Are they working from home? Are they front-facing and frontline workers? It depends on what the industry is and what that looks like. So be patient and be comfortable asking those questions of what that looks like to that company. Updating your resume on LinkedIn and making sure they match. If you do have a LinkedIn profile, if it aligns to the sector, it is important that they match. And of course, consider brushing up your skills while you're working through finding that next transition. There are loads of free courses that have been available online virtually because of the pandemic. So being able to check out some of those resources to say, yeah, I could upgrade a couple of my skills while I wait, is a great other way to be able to consider brushing up those skills. Thanks.
Wow, Brooke, the great suggestions, and boy, did you pack a lot in. It's interesting to see Charlene and Simon nodding their heads too. Great suggestions. I'd like to bring Simon in here to talk about another well-known market in our region, and that's the high-tech sector, our tech sector. Simon, does Communitech offer programming for individuals looking to upskill, reskill, or transition to the tech-driven industry?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman Redmond, for the question. Yeah, so Communitech offers upskilling and reskilling programs to individuals from member and non-member companies through Communitech Academy. So for those who aren't familiar with Communitech Academy, it's really just, it's the trusted partner for developing talent to help meet those tech-driven organizations that are here in the region. And we do this by kind of developing the new talent pool through some reskilling and upskilling so that the companies can draw upon that talent. And then also our programs allow individuals to interact with the tech ecosystem, which is a great opportunity for those who are skilled individuals in adjacent or other industries to shift and redefine their careers in tech. In terms of the programs that we offer some foundational and introductory programs at the employee level. Then they really focus on fundamental skills that are needed in tech, like things like data science, design thinking, product management, user experience, and tech sales. We also do things around leadership, developing leadership skills for new leaders through our programs like Leadership FYI, Leadership WTF, it's not what you think, it's where to focus, and Crucial Conversations. In terms of programs at the leader level, for those who are experienced leaders, we have programs that offer great value to leaders, again, who are maybe thinking, who are operating or working outside of tech, as it's a great way to expose them to leadership fundamental skills, which we all need, particularly in this time during the pandemic, but it's applied in the tech setting and also with leaders from the tech companies. And so this gives an individual an opportunity to learn and expand their network into the tech sector, because that's obviously very important as you look to transition from one sector to another.
Awesome points, Simon, thank you. But a quick follow-up while we're talking about Communitech. Obviously, Communitech plays a big role in supporting local talent in our tech ecosystem here in the Waterloo region. How's that changed during COVID-19?
Well, thank Mayor Bravanovich. In terms of like talent, it's really always been a focus at Communitech because we want, to make sure that we help our tech companies grow by increasing their access to talent. So traditionally, we've done this by creating awareness around the Waterloo region tech ecosystem and all there is to offer by showcasing our awesome companies, like the ones we have here, Axonify and Plum, and job opportunities in the region. We also have been facilitating connections between talent and hiring companies through our programs and events, and then building partnerships where we can, such as with our local post-secondary institutions, obviously the region and the cities, and other hubs to make sure that we're collaborating on these initiatives to kind of strengthen the tech ecosystem here in the region. So while COVID has changed things, it really hasn't changed kind of the mission of what we're trying to drive towards. Our programs have traditionally been offered in person. So in the spring, we had to shift those from in-person to virtual in terms of the events and program delivery. And then given the context in the spring, we also had to shift our programming from, focus on supporting those local organizations with talent attraction to providing a bit more support on folks who were displaced through COVID-19 through our new Talent Connections program. So that Talent Connections program is really designed to be a bridge for talent to connect with hiring companies. And there's also a hub that we created with resources on how to adapt during this period of kind of virtual recruitment, and both geared towards tech companies as well as displaced talent. For those tech companies, we want to help them understand how to access displaced talent. We've done this through a database called the Help List. And we've run a series of webinars to share best practices on virtual recruitment and onboarding, because that's all been, for the most part, new to many organizations. Although obviously some in tech have already been doing that. From a talent and job seeker perspective, we've been helping individuals connect with that tech ecosystem through a number of virtual events and programs. So just to give a sense of some of the breadth of the programs that we're holding, we have our job seeker peer-to-peer, which is a peer-to-peer for job seekers to learn from others around best practices. So most recently, they held an event around job hunting during COVID. We've held a virtual career fair. So some of you may be familiar with Tech Jam. It's traditionally been our large in-person career fair. We converted that to Tech Jam at home because we're all at home now. And we've held that already twice this year. Our next Tech Jam at home, for those who are interested, is on November the 12th. And our previous events have attracted over 1,400 job seekers who have registered, and 30 companies per event. So it's a great one to get connected into the ecosystem. Networking, as Brooke pointed out, is very important. So we've held virtual networking events to connect talent and hiring companies. And as she also mentioned, there's the job board that we have called Work in Tech that it provides access to the job openings that are available. And currently, we have 1,500 job openings in 450 companies that are posting right now. Finally, we've been really committed to trying to provide resources to help job seekers navigate their job search during this kind of new normal. As Brooke pointed out, networking, interviews, meeting people have been different in this remote environment. So we provided a number of resources that are available to help folks out. So if you're looking to learn more about these programs, these services, or these resources, those can be found at communitech.ca on our talent resources page.
Wow, Simon, it's great to hear so many opportunities to get involved in the local tech sector. It's pretty impressive. Outside of tech, Charlene, where can people go to find support to undertake training and be aware of what skills they possess?
Sorry about that. A lot of supports, if you're looking for some supports around your job search and what to do next, you can always connect with the Employment Ontario services that are in our local community. They support job seekers in developing their resumes and figuring out interviewing skills. For example, Simon just mentioned Tech Jam at home. 2 weeks after that, there's another job fair not connected to tech and the other industries. It's called findyourjob.ca virtual job fair. And our Employment Ontario providers are all working together across Waterloo region to make sure that people are ready for that concept, because while the tech industry is very used to the concept of virtual job fairs and things like that, some of our other industries are not. So we're really trying to make sure that we can support job seekers through that Employment Ontario network to learn how to do it and how to do it well. So that's one area. But you can also, if you're interested in certain careers and you've done your research like Brooke has said, you can always go into the colleges or the universities, and they have great academic support people who can kind of work you through what might be the best way to go. And if you already have skill sets or knowledge behind you that could be recognized as prior learning assessment, then they can go towards credits towards a program maybe that you're pursuing, right? So your background could help you move a little quicker maybe through some of the post-secondary programs out there. So always keep that in the back of your mind as well. If you're thinking about a college program and you're thinking, I don't know if I can do 2 years, think about what's behind you and what could maybe earn you credit. So maybe that 1 year becomes, or that 2 year becomes a 1 year potentially for you. So those are some of the resources that can support job seekers as they're exploring new options and new opportunities.
Awesome ideas, Charlene. And, the three of you are providing such incredible perspectives. Now that we have a good understanding of some of the opportunities out there, I'd like to pull Brooke back into the conversation. Another big change for job seekers during this pandemic has actually been the shift to virtual interviews. Can you share with us a little bit what job seekers can expect when attending a virtual interview? What's the proper etiquette and how does it differ from a traditional in-person interview?
Sure, I can. Thank you very much for that question, because this is another one I get asked quite a bit. I think when we're thinking about what a virtual interview looks like, it's pretty easy to state that we all have to get comfortable with virtual. It's not going away. The reason for that is because whether you're a candidate or you're a company that's considering hiring, it's made things more efficient, more timely. It offers no commute for candidates or hiring teams if they're working from home to be meeting anybody. And you get to actually enjoy an interview from the comfort of your own home. So it actually should be able to ease some nerves a little bit. When thinking about, there's always pros, there's typically some cons as well. And we recognize as recruiters and hiring managers that some of the cons are things like it's harder to build rapport online than it is when you're meeting face to face. You get to be able to have that handshake and say, how are you? And have a few pleasantries as you're walking to your interview room. That actually kind of goes away when you're having an interview virtually. You just show up virtually and here you are staring at a camera. You're not even actually talking to humans. So there also could be some connectivity issues, thinking about, is your internet doing all right? Is their internet doing all right? There is also an inability to see the workplace and get a really good feel of the company's culture, if that's something that's really important to you. So understanding those things is also a great way to leverage some of the questions you might want to bring up in your virtual interview that you may not necessarily have asked in a traditional interview because you would have seen it firsthand. So those are some things to consider. There is a tremendous amount of information online, so I'm not going to reinvent the wheel on what online interviewing best practices are, because I'm telling you right now, there's so many, but I will pull out a few that I know are really important in the tech side, because it is really hard for tech companies to say, yes, this is the best platform that all of us tend to use, so therefore get comfortable with only this platform. All of us use different types of platforms to be able to have these virtual conversations. So as a candidate, if you're interviewing with multiple companies, you may feel bombarded with a lot of different tech platforms and you think, oh no, I've got to learn all these platforms from scratch. I don't know how to use Zoom versus Skype versus Google Meet versus WebEx versus FaceTime, and so on and so on and so on. So the list goes on. So it's okay if you ask the interviewer, which platform are we using? And I'd like to have a bit of time to practice in advance. Being flexible is the #1 key to a virtual interview, and knowing you don't need to be perfect. Just make sure you arrive on time and that your webcam works and that they can hear you on a headset with a microphone. Let's see, what else do we hear? Best etiquette. When we're talking about building rapport, the easiest way to understand how to build rapport truly is when you're speaking confidently about something that is of interest to you. Your body language actually tends to show up naturally. You're leaning forward, you're smiling, you're confident in what you're speaking about, and you're able to clearly communicate and show enthusiasm while you're doing it. So that rapport build actually adds to the ability to be able to have that nice dialogue versus feeling like you're sitting in a room by yourself with a bed behind you, which is so not awkward at all when you're sharing 108 individuals in the room with you. And so always remember just to look at the camera. I have actually months ago recognized that there is, it's hard to find some information for individuals that are thinking about making transitions and what should they do with maybe their resume or what should they do to be prepared for interviews. So if you are interested, I actually did create an Instagram account. It's at Love of Recruitment, and it's actually me just trying to share as candidates ask me questions. I actually started creating this platform to help share back out into the communities in case individuals were wanting just small tips and tricks. It's nothing really, at large, long blogs by any means, but if you are looking for some tips and tricks, you're more than welcome to follow me there, and I'd be happy to have some motivation to add more content. That's it.
So, Brooke, I want to really thank you. First of all, I really have to say this is the second time I've seen that bed behind you. You have the best bed making skills of anybody I've ever seen. It must reflect on your personal priorities. But I want to thank Brooke and Charlene and Simon so much for adding so much practical information, resources for people who are tuned into this webinar are able to go to. You've been an amazing source not only of information, but I sense so much synergy and a lot of commonality here. And obviously you have followed Brooke's tips and tricks, because you've all been very compelling panelists, obviously area experts, and thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and providing a pathway forward for people who are looking for reskilling, retooling, and the path forward in a changing context of the economy during a pandemic. So thank you very much, all of you, for providing this great information.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And let me add my thanks. And Karen, I couldn't agree with you more in terms of your comments. What a great discussion that was. But it is time for us to move on to the next item on our very packed agenda today. We have two Region of Waterloo residents here to tell us about some of their big career transitions that they've been through. Each of the women you will hear from next made the leap into a new and fulfilling career, and we hope that their stories will perhaps inspire you to do the same. I'll let our speakers tell you more about themselves, so please welcome our first speaker, Laura Reitzel.
Thanks, Mayor Verbanovic. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Laura Reitzel, and I'm currently a product manager at Plum. I've been with Plum for 3 years now, although my career journey did not start out in the tech sector. So let me take you back to 2010. After obtaining a couple of degrees and dithering over which pathway I wanted to take my career down, I decided to find a job in the insurance sector as a junior underwriter. So from 2010 to 2016, I underwrote thousands of policies, and I thoroughly enjoyed that job. So like every employee, I considered the future of my career. For an underwriter, there seemed to be two different options. One, continue to move up the ranks as a technical professional, which basically meant just doing the same thing with a larger signing authority and more risk. Or two, pursue a leadership position, of which there was limited availability and fierce competition. I chose the leadership pathway, and in 2016, I decided to go back to school to get my MBA to get the skills and knowledge I needed to have a shot as a leader. My MBA courses were really varied. I took everything from accounting to analytics, economics and marketing, to name just a few. Some of the courses made sense to me, but some of them didn't. Why was it important to understand the time value of money, or to be able to identify the inflection point on a supply and demand curve? This really intrigued me, and I began doing some research into what skills were actually important for leadership. I learned that the future of work is shifting, that employers are placing more emphasis on transferable soft skills when looking for new talent. This learning really transformed my path. I began taking courses that aligned with the soft skills that I wanted to develop, like innovation, communication, and teamwork. I also took a course in entrepreneurship and became aware of the amazing tech community here in KW. This was really pivotal for me. I realized I did not have to be bound by the corporate ladder, that my motivations and my interests matter, and that my future was not as narrow as I originally thought it was. Over time, my passion for entrepreneurship grew, and I became eager to join a startup and solve tough problems in a collaborative environment. But how was I going to do that? Could I really transition from insurance to tech? Would it mean throwing away the past 6 years and everything I'd learned so far? I had no tech experience whatsoever, so would any employer even consider me? I began to engage more in the tech community. I started following Communitech and several other key influencers, and that's how I found out about Plum. I was really intrigued to find a local company that was actually trying to solve for the problem that I was having, to be recognized for my innate abilities rather than just my past education and experience. I took my Plum profile and was really amazed by the results. My profile gave me the self-awareness and language I needed to present my authentic self. Armed with my Plum profile and an understanding of my core strengths, I started documenting tangible examples of past achievements, everything from past jobs to volunteering roles to peer mentorship interactions, and even moments of demonstrated leadership from my past personal relationships. And I didn't just focus on the good. I looked at the areas of weakness and I really dug deep to find key examples of where I had leveraged compensating strategies to account for those abilities that I was not as naturally good at. So fast forward a year later, with my MBA complete, I began looking for a job. I now had a new level of self-care for myself, courtesy of months of self-discovery and reflection. I expanded my job search beyond just insurance to find potential roles that fit the true me. I taught myself to read between the lines of job requirements to identify core talents that resonated with my strengths. I stepped out of my comfort zone and pushed myself to try for roles that I didn't meet all of the eligibility requirements for. Unfortunately, though, it was not always a good experience. I applied to many jobs in various industries and experienced the same ups and downs as all job seekers out there. I spent countless hours on resumes and cover letters that I sent off into the ether with no response. Multiple interviews that landed flat because I didn't have direct experience in that exact same role. Employers that didn't match my values, or employers who were simply looking for a bum in a seat. The more I experienced the lows of being a job seeker, the more I realized that the industry is just not shifting fast enough. So while there is a significant amount of research and thought leadership that supports the value of hiring for soft skills, many organizations have just not yet made that shift a reality in their hiring processes. But I knew that Plum was solving for this exact problem and I wanted in. Luckily, at the time, Plum was hiring and they were hiring for a customer success manager. I didn't even know what that title was when I first saw it, but after lots of research, I felt that I would be a good fit based on my talents. During the interview, I was able to leverage my previous self-awareness and discovery to provide explicit examples of how I demonstrated excellence in similar situations in the past. It was truly refreshing to be my authentic self rather than trying to fit into some preconceived mold. Today, my path is a lattice, and my opportunities really are endless. I'm incredibly thankful that Plum embraces the lattice philosophy, whereby employees can pursue continuous growth and development that align with their interests and motivations. 3 years ago, I joined Plum as a customer success manager. And since then, I have transitioned to manager of project operations and transitioned again into the role of product manager. If you were to ask me where I see myself in 5 years from now, I would say I'm not sure. What I do know is that wherever I am and whatever I am doing, it will be aligned with my talents, interests, and motivations. This is my career journey, and I decide the path to take. I get to write the story. Thank you.
Wow, that was such an inspiring story, and thank you for sharing it with us, Laura. It sounds like you've developed an awesome career at Plum, and it was exciting to hear about it and the journey to get there. I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, Saba Shafiq.
Thank you so much, Mayor Verbanovic. It is such an honor to be here amongst you all. Good morning, everyone. I am Saba Shafiq, a project coordinator with Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to all the organizers for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. I would like to take this opportunity also to thank some amazing people who helped me get where I am today and in realizing my dreams. First and foremost, Mr. Ian McLean, the President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, who trusted me and was willing to give me a chance when no one else did. Ms. Brenda Halloran, the former Mayor of Waterloo for 8 years, who is the best mentor one can have or imagine. Ms. Nora Whittington, the Community Engagement Coordinator at Immigration Partnership, for always believing in me. And last but no way the least, Mr. Lester Hawley, for always supporting me. It is because of these incredible people that I am here today. The 26th President of the United States, President Theodore Roosevelt, said, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." I share my story today with you all with the sole intention that you learn from my mistakes so that my lesson is what makes you believe in yourself. Please do not underestimate yourself. Before coming to Canada, I had a master's degree in international business management, and I was working in a multinational company in India. There, with sheer hard work, I was promoted 3 times in a span of 5 years. Then I got married and moved to Canada in May 2006. I knew nothing about this place, not a clue of the work culture, and no contacts. I was basically starting my life all over again. I had the same skill set, the same education, the same knowledge. However, I did not believe in myself. I thought that my master's degree will not be recognized here till the time I take some courses and upgrade myself. I did not even bother to explore my options. I worked in a call center for a year and then a private school for almost 6 years just because I had daycare facility there. When both my kids were big enough to start school, that's when I decided to get my degrees evaluated and give myself a chance. Fortunately or unfortunately, that's when I learned that my master's degree had the equivalency of a master's degree taught in Canada. But by then, 8 years had passed. Having said that, I still believe that there's always a silver lining. And I came to know that of a government-funded program through which companies received financial aid to hire trained professionals like me if they had a master's degree. I got a job in a software company. The executive team loved my work, but unfortunately, they were running in losses and had to downsize, and I lost my job. But again, remember, hard work does not go waste. In a span of 6 months, I had gained work experience in Canada, excellent references, and a lot of confidence. I had my skill set. All I needed was to transfer it from one job to another. So if you have emotional intelligence, you are a good communicator, you have time management and problem-solving skill, how does it matter if you are working in a call center, a school, a software company, or the Chamber of Commerce? You will utilize the skills to accomplish your task. I started networking and was extremely fortunate to be connected with Ms. Brenda Halloran, the amazing lady and the former mayor of Waterloo, through the WR Connector program. Brenda and I were so successful as a team that we featured in a video recorded to promote the WR Connector program. The video again was very well received. Therefore, the WR Connector team decided to request Mr. Ian McLean, the CEO of the Chamber, to interview Brenda and me at a success party of the program. That's how I met Ian. Later, when there was a job posting at the Chamber, I applied. Ian knew me well by then, and that helped me outshine the other candidates. That's the power of networking. I have now been with the Chamber for almost 5 years. My role has continuously evolved. I believe in constant learning. I found my passion in project management, and I enrolled in a course 2 years ago at Conestoga College, which I will be completing in spring 2021. I am also enhancing my leadership skills, and I'm currently enrolled with Leadership Waterloo Region course. With 2 kids, a full-time job, a husband away serving the Canadian Forces, currently posted in New Brunswick, me working all alone, if I can achieve this, then so can you. There are so many people, great mentors out there, willing to guide you. All you need to do is reach out. In the end, I would like to say, today it's me sharing my story. Tomorrow it can be any of you. So just believe in yourself and keep pursuing your dreams. Thank you so much and all the very best.
Saba, I want to say thank you so much. You've had quite a journey, and I think what I find so exciting is you're still on it. So you have an inspirational history and you are continuing on that path. So thank you for sharing. I hope these stories have inspired you as much as they've inspired us. On the note of career transition, as part of this event, Plum, a local Waterloo regional company, has provided each of you with access to a free skill assessment to help you learn what your other career and industry might be a good fit for you. So to tell us more about that, I'd like to introduce Caitlin McGregor, CEO at Plum. Welcome, Caitlin.
Hi, thank you so much. I really appreciate you emceeing today, and thank you everybody for coming here. These stories have just been incredible, and all this great advice. I'm hoping that I can also share some insights in terms of how to interpret your Plum profile. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I just realized I did not test which screen people can see because I have so many. So I need 1 second to see if I can change which screen people are seeing. Oh, it's
Caitlin,
now
we're
telling.
able to see your webpage.
Are you able to still see my webpage, Sydney?
Yes.
Perfect.
Looks great.
Thank you for jumping online. So everybody, when you registered in your confirmation email, there was a little line saying you could go ahead and complete your own Plum profile. So Sydney's going to put it in the chat if you want to copy it from there, but this is the URL. So it's use.plum.io/TG, which is your talent guide. And so it'll take you to this page. It'll tell you a little bit about your Plum profile and the talent guide. There's a little video of how, if you're in a work environment, how you can use it with your colleagues. And then you could go along to the bottom and it says create your profile. And when you click on that, it's going to ask you to register using your email address and your name. And then it's going to go in and ask you to complete a 25-minute assessment. And as soon as you are done that assessment, you are going to see this page. And this is the instructions on how to understand your talent guide. Sorry, you'll get this screen. So right away, when you're done completing your assessment, it's going to go ahead and show you your top 3 talents. Now, this is an assessment, these top 3 that most people can get at no cost right off of our website. However, what we've done for this event is given you access to your full talent guide. So this is a professional development, personalized guide that talks about not just your top 3 talents, but all 10 of your talents in order of priority. So before jumping into your talent guide, I'll just give you a quick orientation. So, you know, if you were able to take this in advance, great, you've seen your profile. This will hopefully give you some context to understand it. If you haven't had a chance to take it, don't worry. When you get an opportunity, you can go ahead. That link will keep working. And so go in and take it. This is a real psychometric assessment. So it tests cognitive ability, your personality priorities, and your social intelligence. And so it is recommended, ideally, that you're well rested, that you've eaten recently, that you're basically the best version of yourself when you're going in to take it. So it's not normally something we recommend that you take at 2 o'clock in the morning, sleep deprived and probably not fed. So when you get a chance and you're in an uninterrupted environment, go ahead and complete the assessment. And then you're going to see right off the top your top 3 talents. So Laura was talking about her top 3 talents earlier in her story. Well, these are actually my top 3 talents. So it says that my natural innate ability, the thing that gives me a sense of self-worth, the thing that helps me thrive, is persuading. So, you know, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Plum, so being able to set a vision and have people believe in it and be able to show them that there's an alternative to maybe how they were thinking about things, when I see that light bulb go on for people, that's really energizing for me. At the end of the day, if I know that I helped persuade people to think about something differently, I feel like I've had a great day. That makes me want to, you know, talk to the people in my life in a way that makes me feel fulfilled. And my next talent is adaptation, adaptive ace. And so, you know, being able to constantly adapt to things that are changing and being able to go with the flow, that allows me, you can imagine, in growing a business, something that has, no matter what obstacle or challenge comes up, I can adapt to it. And then the third talent is decision making. So constantly having to make decisions as to, do we do this or do we do that? And so that's not something that drains me. Other people, especially during COVID, we have decision-making fatigue where it feels like every day deciding, even going into a store and deciding, you know, where to go in the store to not bump into people can, you know, just be exhausting. And so,
You know, whereas the more decisions that I can solve in a day, it actually is fulfilling. So this is really about what Laura was talking about with having self-awareness of what allows you to really feel satisfied and that sense of self-worth and feel like you are exceptional. This is an indicator of what is really going to energize you at the end of the day. And it goes into some details in terms of explaining what that means. You know, what are the things that you really enjoy? You know, what are the things that you would thrive in professionally and at work? And so it starts to give you language that you can use in your cover letter, that you can use in your interviews to articulate what makes you exceptional. And then when you get into work preferences, this is really a reminder of it's not about the job title. I remember that we did a workshop like this about 6 years ago when there were massive layoffs at BlackBerry. And I would talk to somebody and they would say, well, you know, I'm a front-end developer. That's all I've done my whole career. And I've been looking on the market for 8 months and I can't find a job. And we would talk about, well, why do you think that's the box that you have to fit into? If we look at their profile, they were actually really enjoyed working with people. They enjoyed also being persuasive. And so in that case, I said, had you ever thought of technical sales? And the person's like, what, gross, sales, no, like, I don't want to do that. I said, well, do you know anybody that does technical sales in your life? And they said, yeah, I've got a few friends. And I said, go and interview them and ask them about their job and see if it's something that you might enjoy. And this person came back super excited, says, I talked to them, I think I'd love being a technical sales rep. And within 2 months, they were hired at Desire to Learn, D2L, and I think they've been there ever since. But it's really getting outside the box of how have you defined yourself, and instead thinking about what would make you happy and what other jobs and what other industries and what other positions have those same characteristics that would make you happy. And so this gives you a bit of a roadmap for that. And then this is incredibly helpful because in every interview, the employer always turns and says, do you have any questions? And, you know, Brooke talked about there are things that maybe intuitively we were able to understand just by being in the environment. Well, now it's more important than ever to make sure that we're really utilizing that time to make sure that that's a good fit for us. And so these are some questions for you to ask to make sure that you'd be happy in the role. And that can really make sure it's the right fit for you as well. So this is all right off the top. But then we have this section called Talent Guide here on the left. And this is your personalized professional development guide. The first part are instructions. And so what's important to know is that there is a video, and it's actually Laura on the video telling you how to think about that professional development guide. So if you don't remember anything from today, don't worry, you can go back. But a thing I wanted to point out is we've actually changed the way we talk about this, but it's not reflected here. So you're going to want to pay attention to this part. Right here, when we use what are called Harvey balls to talk about, you know, do you have 5 balls or do you have 1 ball? And it says highly likely to exhibit or less likely to exhibit. What we're really talking about is 5 Harvey balls means that it's going to energize you. It's going to drive you. You are going to perform at an excellent level in those activities. And it's something that is going to, again, if you think about your own battery, it's going to be charging you and giving you energy. Whereas 1 or 2 of these Harvey balls, what we're talking about is it's really draining. It's not that you can't do it, but imagine going into work and 80% of the time you're working on things that drain you. That's going to learn to burn out. That's going to lead to you not feeling very good at the end of the day. You know, so we want you to be in a situation where you're going to thrive and excel. And so this is really about what drives you and what drains you. And then the last part here is this worksheet. So you can download this PDF, and what it does is it gives you the full breakdown of how to think about your own guide. It gives you a way to interact with it so that you get that higher level of self-awareness. So things that you can ask yourself are there cases where I might rely too much on certain strengths? What additional talents might I want to develop to round out my development? What will I continue to refine in future roles, and what might be required for me in my next role and overall career direction? It goes through how you can actually plan your development goals. And you can use this in your job search and in your career transition as a way of setting milestones to help you understand, you know, ways of working on these. And then one thing to understand is, you know, a lot of the times when we think about transitioning in our career, we think we have to go out and get a training course. And that is really helpful. but it's actually only 10% of the model, which is going out and finding formal channels, and that can be webinars, that can be YouTube channels, that can be online courses. But a lot of learning actually happens 20% through others, through coaches, mentors, job shadowing, and feedback. And so there may be a role in the organization you're in right now that you'd like to move into. Can you start to get that mentorship internally? I know I started my career through an informational interview, reaching out to people that had the job that I was hoping to have and asking them how they got there in the first place. And then the last part is, 70% learning is experience-based. It's on-the-job activities and on-the-job assignments. So if you think about what you want to work on and you think about what empowers you, think about a role that gives you that opportunity to learn on the job. And so it goes through and kind of gives you some of that framework. And then you can go back and look at actually now a breakdown of, okay, there's the summary holistically, how are you at work? What could you potentially focus on if you wanted to focus on developing coping strategies so the things that are a bit more challenging don't drain you quite as much. It's like, imagine your phone battery, you're at below 20%. How do you flip it on to battery charging mode so it's less draining? And then it gives you the breakdown of all 10 of your talents. And you can see it specifically goes into, even though I'm really strong at persuasion, I still have certain areas that I could work on, or if I'm trying to get even better, would be areas I could focus on. But really what I'm trying to think about with a job search is, where are the opportunities where I can leverage these things that make me exceptional? And how in an interview can I make sure that I'm getting across that these are what make me unique? And are there examples I can use to express how I've done this really well in the past, regardless of the job or industry? I started in university doing my undergrad in international development. I then taught English in China for a year. I then went and started a social enterprise, being director of operations and building a company from scratch. That's how I realized I was an entrepreneur. Then I ran an educational software company, and now I'm running Plum. None of that had to do with what I had done in the past. The thing that was consistent were my innate talents, my ability to be persuasive and adaptive and decision making. But sometimes when you're looking at getting the job, you have to connect the dots for somebody. You have to show them how the experiences that you've had along the way add up to making you be able to transfer that experience into the new opportunity. So this will give you a roadmap of what to highlight. What is an example that you've done really well at anticipating problems and choosing forward-thinking solutions? It could be from any industry where if that's your strength, you could use to highlight that makes you exceptional. And at the end of the day, you want an employer that's looking for those talents for it to be a win-win. And so hopefully this provides you a lot of language and direction and self-awareness to help you thrive as you look at transitioning your career. We're so excited to have all of you here today. I can't thank you enough, and would love to know, if this provides value to you. So please go online. You can share your top 3 talents with on your LinkedIn. You can use it as part of your resume, and we're wishing you all the best luck.
Wow, what an awesome tool, Caitlin. I think back to when I was finished university and had my poli-sci and business degree, and little did I think that I would end up in IT, but I could have used something like Plum to help me to figure that out and get there at the time. Thank you so much also for providing this tool to all the participants today. It's been a great session, and now I'll turn it over to my co-MC, Chair Redmond, for some closing words.
And I'm going to talk really fast, but Caitlin, amazing information. I'm sitting here collating all the people that I hope were on this webinar. Really an information-packed hour, and I hope our guests have found the material and resources presented both useful and inspiring. I want to thank Laura Reitzel, Signe Rohr, and Caitlin McGregor specifically for organizing this. And Caitlin, we now all know that you have 2 gorgeous sons. In some ways, this was like marking the pathway forward to everybody, no matter where they are in their career. And on behalf of the Region of Waterloo, the City of Kitchener, the Future of Work and Learning Coalition in Waterloo Region, I want to thank you all for taking time to join us today to go on this journey. I know this will be a significant signpost as you go forward. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I wish you the best of luck. in your job search. And thank you for joining us.